Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie and this is the Knit Up and Dye podcast, episode 95. Not too much. As always, I'm going to start with my thank yous because you guys mean the world to me, more than you can imagine. Special thank you goes out to all of my subscribers, new and ongoing. I love you guys. What you see here is all about you. Ask questions, tell me what you want to see. Hello goes out to Lisa, Allie, Southern Stone Indoor Climbing. Thank you for adding me to your day. Special love and thanks go out to Tara, Diane, Allison, Barbara, Faye, Julie, Janelle, Erica, Adriana, Wayne, Sonia, Patricia, Lisa Lette, Cappy, Kath, Benty, Christy, Neetsy, Charlotte, Chris, Roseanne, Linda, Marie, Eve. Thank you. David, Donna, Betty Ann, Scott and John, Jessica, Kate, Janet, Terry, Over at Unwound, Monica, Bex, Carolyn, Nancy and Rachel, and Jorge. Jorge, I love you and I love your podcast. Much love goes out to my Zoom family, Robert, Roz, Paula, Brian, Jen, Elizabeth, Nicole M, Nicole B, Katie, Shirley, Tracy, and Georgianne. You are on my mind. And I hope to pop in to see you tomorrow, as well as it looks like we've got a bunch of new people and I can't wait to meet everybody. A warm hello and thank you go out to my patrons. You honor me. Thank you for making this possible. Life! We're going to kick right off with life because life likes to kick us, right? You'll notice that my voice is a little bit strained today and I'm going to be sipping my lemonade a lot. We're just going to drop in. Depression. Depression is a disease. It is a mental illness and it is something that I am graced with. Why do I talk to you guys about depression? I talk to you guys about depression because of its debilitating isolation and loneliness. And if you are out there and you have depression as well, you need to know that you are not alone. That is the most important thing because your headspace from time to time isn't quite right and you need to be reminded. I also talk about depression because of the gummy bear effect, what I refer to as the gummy bear. When I am depressed, my experience is that I am a tiny little being stuck inside of a great big giant gummy bear. And everything I try to say has to go through all this gelatin before it gets out into the public, and that's slow and it's low and it's hard to get out, and it takes great effort to push through this. And so by the time I respond to things, or by the time I say anything, or by the time it comes out, it is too quiet, it is too low, and it gets missed, and people think that I am not engaged, or that I'm being mousy, or that I'm shy. And the reality is I am putting forth great big effort. I'm having to scream to push through all that gelatin to have this little come out. I don't know if that's what other people's life is like, but everything has this weird big thick buffer on it, and I don't move the same, I don't speak the same, I don't think the same, I don't hear the same. Everything goes through this giant gummy bear before it gets in or out. And there's a healing effect associated to talking. Generally, by the time I realize that my headspace isn't right, and I'm able to actually go, hey, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not myself right now, I'm going through a depressive cycle. That's the turning point, that's the tipping point. By the time I'm able to actually articulate that something is wrong, that means that I'm at my lowest and I'm about to get better. And the more I talk about it and the more I express it, the more I find other people that are dealing with the same thing, and we connect and we support each other. And that connection is very, very important. So why am I talking about depression? Why am I discussing all this? Friday was my low point. Friday was the turning point. Friday I was really not in good headspace. And I realized why. I realized what was triggering me. I realized why I was so low. I talked to you guys a little bit about it last week, and I said, that some of the medications I had been taking for my cold and my flu were bothering me, and I knew it. And some of them are even labeled now that, you know, you need to watch out, especially if you do take antidepressants. I personally do not take antidepressants anymore. I am handling my depression through nutrition and diet, and no longer taking any prescriptive medications. However, if a product tells you that it interacts badly with antidepressants or anti-anxiety drugs, that means that they interact with people who require them. So to that end, I knew that the stuff I had been taking had been bothering me. I didn't know how much it was bothering me, and I didn't realize that there was going to be a lasting effect after I stopped, nor did I realize that my all-natural homeopathic cough syrup was bothering me. And that one was really, really bothering me, and I didn't realize it. For this throat cough thing that I'm stuck with, you know, the residual behind a cold, we all get that. I have been taking an all-natural product, and I was only taking it twice a day, first thing in the morning and last thing at night, and it was just enough that it was putting me into this cycle. And I got really depressed. My headspace was not good. I had lost my sense of hope. I had become very feeling that everything was worthless, that it wasn't worth an effort, that nothing was going to be good, that the world was this, sky was falling. The sky was falling. And you see me laughing about it now and kind of being light about it now. That's because my headspace is shifting, and I'm realizing how unhealthy my headspace was, and that I really was sick, and how ridiculous some of my thought patterns were. And it's really, really important to listen to your headspace and ask yourself questions. Is this me? Is this healthy? And if you start to think that nothing is worthwhile, that you don't want to do it because what's the point? Something's wrong. Those are markers, folks. And yeah, there are some things that truly are not worth effort, and you will rationalize those things in your life. But when nothing is worth effort, pay attention. Pay attention and look at what you're taking in. Is this a food that I might have an allergy to, that the allergic reaction is it a medication I'm taking? Is it an interaction? Is it chemical? Or do I just simply have the blues today? When it's every day and it's lasting you more than a week, start pushing through the gummy bear. Start talking to people. Start telling them, hey, I don't feel great. Nothing feels right in my world, and get help. Friday was my low point. Like I said, I was not in a good place. I'm going to be emotional talking about it. So when did I know I was in trouble? Friday I got up, I took my cough medicine, I was going to work. I knew that I was going to be on the phones a little bit. Wanted to be at my best being able to speak rather than having to put people on hold and cough for 3 minutes and come back to them. And got to work, got into the parking lot, stopped the car, and was just like, oh God, why am I doing this? I don't want to be here. We all go through that. There are days where you try to go to work and yeah. And then I realized I was crying. And I was just like, oh no, wait a minute. I like my job. I feel fulfilled by my work. I help people. I'm good at what I do. Why am I sitting here tearing up? This is, okay, wait a minute. This isn't me. This is something else. And I pulled out my phone and I checked my messages and stuff, and there had been a text message from the night before. And it was a coworker who was letting me know that they hadn't forgotten about a project that I needed help on, and that they'd be able to do that later today. And I was like, okay, somebody cared enough to, after hours, reach out to me and let me know that they hadn't forgotten me. Key into this. This is important. And then I looked at my emails, And there were a lot of messages from you guys, from feedback from last week, welcoming me back, telling me that you were glad that I was feeling better, excited about the sock tutorial that I'm planning. And I realized, okay, you're not alone. There's total stranger friends out there that care, that took the time to sit down and hack off a couple lines to you. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. And then, getting into a better place and feeling better, and okay, this is just the weirdness. This isn't real. That this isn't real. That this worthlessness and everything isn't real. This is just, I'm a little sick right now. Got out of the car and I walked into work, and I took time to pay attention to the weather and the sun and the plants and the trees and the other people, and pull joy. What do I love about these things? These things are here, and really kind of focus on that and get my head in the right place so I didn't walk into work sobbing. And I got upstairs and I realized that I didn't have my access badge pulled out yet. Usually I have it out. And I was all ready to dig into my bag and pull it out, which, no big deal, 2 seconds. And a coworker had been considerably ahead of me and noticed that I was reaching into my bag and presumably understood that I didn't have my badge out, and stopped and waited and held the door for me. Little things matter. So much, so much. The tiniest kindness can change somebody's day. And that person thinks nothing of what they did. They were being polite. But it mattered to me. And I'm sorry. I do not want to make this a tragedy. I do not want you to think, oh, poor Jess. I do not want you to turn off because I need attention, or that I'm attention seeking, or that I'm not right. I want to convey that the 2 seconds you spend in your life to help another person, to type a message to a total stranger, to send a quick text, may make all the difference in somebody else's world. And that's important. And we all need to do that. And we need to do that for everyone that makes a difference in our world. We need to be sure we say thank you. We need to hold the door. We need to remind people. We need to tell people that they're beautiful, that they're loved, that they matter. And you guys do so much, so much. And I am so grateful to every one of you that reaches out to me, that pushes through their own gummy bear and says, hey, I get it, I'm there, and I need help too. We need connection. My connection to you is the knitting. It's the yarn. This is how we met. This is how we bonded. And this isn't about selection or private group. This is the human experience. And we found a connection, and we are sharing and bonding and growing and being better together. That's what's important. So there, I've told you my life. If you're in it, if you're in pain, if your headspace isn't right, if you have a debilitation and illness, if you struggle every day, know that you are not alone. Whether it's rehabilitation physically, mentally, emotionally, you're not alone. We are all here, and we are all doing this together. And every day, may it be better than the last. Again, I'd like to thank everybody. I'm going to move on now. I'm tired of sitting here and feeling bad. I'm gonna feel good. I'm gonna feel good. We're all gonna feel good. Let's do good things. I'm gonna move on, and I'm gonna remind everybody that I'm still doing the Paperback Rider Little Free Library fundraiser. We had a nice big donation that I announced last week, and I'm proud as punch about that. This is going to continue. She is about $1,000 shy, and I want to do everything I can to make that up. So to that end, and I have my cheat sheet. I'm sorry, you keep seeing me look down. I am donating 10% of all sales out of my Etsy shop through the month of February to Paperback Rider Little Free Library. Also, 50% of sales of the exclusive colorway are going to go to her, and 50% of all pattern sales for the month of February are going to her. I released Barn Dance. Thank you guys. Thank you. If you're still test knitting it, I love you. Thank you. Just because we had a deadline does not mean that your experience, that your feedback, that your comments are not still worthy. One of the things that designers struggle with is test knitting, and when is it perfect? When is it perfect? When is my pattern perfect? When should I release my pattern? It's never perfect. It's never perfect. And there comes a point where you draw a line in the sand and you put it out into the world, and you recognize that edits are perpetual and can happen at any time, and that's okay. That's important. So whenever I do a test knit, I have a general date that I set out that we're going to aim for, and we aim for that. And some people get done in that time, some people don't get done in that time. That's okay. That's okay, because the people that don't get done in that time frame are going to knit it in their own time, in their own experience, and they're not going to be quite as rushed feeling. They're not going to be quite as, how do I say this without sounding wrong, detail oriented. They're not in that constant, I gotta edit this, I gotta make sure that everything is perfect. They're knitting it. And I almost need to set up two deadlines. I need to have a study deadline and then an experience deadline, because the people who just knit the pattern are more relaxed. They're more in their space and they're experiencing the pattern, and they're more likely to say, this was kind of uncomfortable, I'm not sure if this is, I didn't quite understand this wording, rather than the stitch count is wrong, or this is the wrong abbreviation, or whatever. There's two different tests that are actually happening, and I'm not quite sure when I ask for test knitters how to express that, because I don't actually want to give two deadlines. That's just going to be confusing to people. But I want people to, I like having a variety of test knitters, because some test knitters are going to be very technical and some test knitters are going to be very touchy-feely, and I need both of you. I need all of you. So for those of you who are still knitting the pattern, thank you for being my touchy-feely knitters. I love you guys. For those of you that pounded through it and have beautiful shawls all done and sent me gorgeous, gorgeous photos, thank you, because I love that technical side as well. And the pattern has been released. It is available on Ravelry now. Sorry, I'm digging around. So you are welcome to it. The public can access this now. I love this pattern. It is so pretty and I'm so proud of it. I actually had the super cool experience of being on Instagram the other night and scrolling through pictures, and I saw this shawl that was really pretty by one of the women who I follow, and I was looking at this, real quick. I was like, oh God, that is gorgeous. What is that? And it was Barn Dance. Thank you. That was such a wonderful moment for me. See, depression doesn't make any sense because I have a great life. I have these beautiful, wonderful, happy experiences. It's an illness. It's so frustrating. It was just such a fantastic experience to see that shawl in her color choices and how beautiful it was. And I hope that you have that experience. I hope that you put something out into that world and you have that moment where it surprises you. It comes back at you in an unexpected way, and you see it with fresh eyes and experience the surprise of, I did that. I was a piece of that, and it's wonderful. What have I been knitting this week? Not too much, which is the title of this episode. Not too much lends itself to a couple of different things. You don't want to do too much. Too much of anything is a bad thing. Too much of my cough syrup was a bad thing. Too much yuck in the world is a bad thing. Too much knitting can be a bad thing. You can throw off my shoulder. Too much, sometimes you just can't do enough, and other times you're doing too much. I need to be careful. And a lot of you reached out and reminded me, thank you guys, to take my time healing and to not do too much, not to overpressurize myself or feel that I had failed in some way because I've been sick and got behind on stuff, and to rest and let the healing process really, really finish. If you are having any experience of this cold flu that is going across America right now, take your time, be kind to yourself. It's a doozy this year. I don't know why it's so bad, but everybody that I've talked to that's got this has been down 4 or 5 weeks of healing time, and many people even more than that. So I didn't do too much this week. I did work on my wool-free socks, and I'm really excited about that because I almost have a pair. We're headed there. We're almost done with them. I showed you these last week. They look so stupid because my foot looks so long in these and the ankle looks so skinny. But I love them. I love them. These are my wool-free socks, and this is the second one. And look, guys, I got through. I'm up onto the leg. So I'm really close. I'm quite literally just inches from done. I've got 4.5, 5 inches of knitting to do. And I asked last week on the podcast if anybody knew what this material was that was in it. The socks are made from an acrylic and from a product called PBT. Betty Ann, thank you. Why I don't just Google things? Because I like to interact with you and I like to see what you guys know, and sometimes I forget that Google exists. I'm older than the Google generation, and forget that I can go there to find out. I don't know why. But Betty Ann wrote back and told me that she found this about PBT. Peter, Betty, Tom. Polybutylene terephthalate. I'm killing it. If you're going to kill it, go all the way, right? Belongs to the polyester family. In the textile applications, it's mainly used because of its elasticity. Highly elastic, friction textured PBT yarn will convince you with its soft, pleasant touch that it is ideal for comfort clothing, particularly in sports. Thank you, Betty Ann, for getting this information for me. And that answers so many questions for me, because I was thinking about acrylic. Acrylic is not flexible. It's not an elastic material. It lands somewhere between a petroleum and a plastic. And it has a tendency to it's not an elastic property product. So I've been looking at this material for the socks, and I remember thinking that this wasn't very elastic, and therefore I needed to actually gauge down on this project to make up for its lack of elasticity. And honestly, I also was looking at the material itself, so far as its hand. Of course, I'm always paying attention. I'm a knitter. It's about the touchy-feely. So the hand of it, and I had been saying to you guys, that it looked like it was spun up of at least, it looks like it's an 8-ply. Might be time for new glasses. It looks like it's an 8-ply, and it's spun up and it's bouncy, and there's a lot of air in that. So I had been thinking about the construction of it and 8 plies and how they had it twisted together, and was thinking that that was kind of giving it its elasticity because of the spring effect of them all being plied together. But the reality is that PBT is helping it, and there is some elasticity to it. I'm going to see if I can block my face, set a distance on my hand, and pull. I'm only doing like an inch, but I'm getting myself here probably out of an inch. I'm probably getting almost, I'm not going to say a half inch, but over a 1/4 inch of pull, and it's springing back. So there is great value in that polybutylene terephthalate product that they have added into that. And it is giving elasticity, and the yarn really has a fantastic hand. So now I'm questioning, did I really need to gauge down the way I did? And what kind of gauge down did I do? It's a vanilla sock. The yarn is self-patterning, so I went down a size just to give it a little bit tighter fit. A little bit more negative ease, and instead of doing a standard 64 stitch cast on, I went down to a 60. I've tried them on, they fit lovely, and I'm looking forward to wearing them. They're quite comfy, and anybody who's ever worked with acrylic knows the more you wash and dry that product, the softer it gets. So those are going to be super squishy and lovely eventually. Not that they're not already. I love them. That is the entire bit of knitting that I've done. I managed to do the gusset, the heel extension, the heel turn, the flap, and I'm up to the leg, which is a bunch of little different changes. And that's what I love about knitting socks, is there's transitions. There's all these different activities that you do, whether top down or bottom up, that keep it interesting. You're doing a different activity. You only work for so long before it's a different activity. It's a different action. It's exciting, and I don't know about you, but turning a heel is magic, and I love it every time I do it. To make a fabric, a flat fabric, turn 90 degrees is just cool. I'm a knit geek. I groove on the weird things. What's in timeout? Oh, timeout. My timeout pile is huge. I told you guys last week that I tore out my Dalen sweater. I have plans to make another sweater. I'm waiting for yarn to come. I have not decided on a pattern yet. You need the yarn to come in. You need to do kind of a gauge swatch, figure out what you're doing so that you don't end up back in a situation where you tear out because you don't like the fabric. Also in timeout is my Ships Ashore shawl that was on fingering. I haven't touched that in years. It's here. The color is gorgeous. It's off a needle. It's on a thread. I need to just do it. I'm not sure why I can't seem to get myself to pick that up. I need to put it as a goal on the calendar and go, today I'm going to reinsert the needle in this, and as soon as I do, it'll be right back in action. My Duchess of Santa Fe, that's the gold shawl. I need to look at this very technically and determine if there's an error, where's the error, and move on with this. It's beautiful, I love it, and eventually it will be stunning. It continues to live in the pile of shame. I have also my overflow shawl that I've never released, and do I have it right here? I don't have it in the pile of shame. It's really a pretty pattern. I would love to get that moving and done. Fox Paws, which is a Zandy Peters pattern. Is that right? I think that's her name. I'm sorry, I don't have it right here in front of me. Beautiful, beautiful stack stitch pattern. I have been working on that thing for, we're not going to discuss how old it is. I think it could attend kindergarten. It's beautiful. I love it. Someday I will finish it. Again, it's another one of those things where I need to pull it down, figure out where I left off, and get on it. What have I been designing? So I have a secret pattern in process. Those of you who are patrons, you know what that pattern is. I did try to have a series of posts about the design process and what goes into the thought process and the action of designing a pattern. I need to finalize that pattern. I've knitted a couple times. I'm very excited about it. I need to get it written up, and then I need to get it tested. That is going to release when I go up to Unwound this spring, and it's going to be done in conjunction with my DK Minis, and I'm very excited to do that. That entire release is going to happen at Unwound, so if you come up to the shop and you're there with me during my trunk show, you're going to be the first ones to see it and handle it and play with it, unless you're a patron, and you're also going to get an early release before the rest of the public. So that is coming, and I hope to dedicate some time to that this weekend. It's Sunday afternoon already. There's always hope. I had another design that I was working on that was going to be just a real texture-based worsted weight shawl that I was referring to as coffee bar. I haven't touched it, and the reason that I haven't touched it is because I got to a stall space. I'm an active designer, where that's a weird way to put that. I'm a hands-on designer in that I'm knitting it while I'm working the design, and I'm testing it. I'm doing swatches at the same time as I'm actually knitting the product. And I got through to a certain point on it, and I was thinking very much this design was a shawl that kind of mimicked a sweater. And I was thinking I wanted buttonholes in that I wanted kind of a collar in that. And I discovered very quickly that where I was going was maybe a little bit too literal to the sweater concept, that it was a little bit too cardigan and not quite enough shawl. And as much as I love the idea of the collar, I needed to ramp that back a little bit. And as much as I love the idea of the buttons, I need to really think about that more. I'm not a huge fan of button bands. I'm not a huge fan of knitting buttonholes. Mine just, I haven't done enough of them for my technique to be solid. And I need to work on that technique more before I put something out into the world. I want to be sure I'm happy with it. I want to be sure that the technique that I convey in my pattern for other people to do is solid, that it's not sloppy, that it works. It works. If I'm going to design something, I want everybody to have the opportunity to have success and joy from it. So to that end, I started to put a button band on this so that you had a number of different ways to wrap the shawl and you could button it kind of into place. And I'm just not happy with it. And that's where it stalled, was spacing the buttons, which there's calculators out there, but this isn't a sweater, it's a shawl. Spacing the button holes in the button band to make sure that not only were they far enough apart, but that they were accommodating of a button. And I'm talking about a sizable button. This should be a nice big statement piece. Everything about it is oversized. Sometimes you just need to take a design and set it aside and put it in the back part of your brain and mull over it in the darker recesses of your mind to work out the math, to work out the problems, rather than beating it to death. And I'd gotten to the point where I was beating it to death, and I had to set it aside and let it cook. It's cooking, and I'm starting to hear it again. I'm starting to see it again and feel like, okay, I could see my way through this, and now it's making more sense. Are you listening to this? Am I insane? I'm probably insane. That's okay. I'm comfortable with my insanity. Let's hope you are too. Design is very internal sometimes, where it's very much thought process, and not often are there words associated to it. It's very visual. It's very editing. It's WYSIWYG. If any of you are computer people, what you see is what you get, and you move stuff around. The WYSIWYG is what you see is what you get. You move stuff around, you slide it around in your head, and sometimes you have to do all of that shifting of all the blocks and bits and pieces before you can actually knit it or even write it on paper without erasing holes into the page. And that's kind of what's happening in my subconscious as I'm working on that design that way. I have one other design that I'm dreaming of. So we have the farmhouse shawl, which was my 2-color shawl. And we have Barn Dance, which is its 3-color big sister. I think I need a little sister. I think I need a 1-color, 1 skein version. And its name has already come to me, and I can sort of see it. But there needs to be some math and some weighing to see if I can make this happen. So it's cooking. And I'm not going to tell you any more about it. Yeah, I'm going to leave you hanging. I'm not even going to tell you the name of it because everything is, to be determined. But I have very much in mind a little sister to Barn Dance and Farmhouse that's going to be a single skein shawlette, I guess. That is going to be very much in line, that they will be all in the same family in their design and style. So that could happen. And I am so excited and so turned on that my head is finally back out of the thick yuck of the cold and flu, that I can actually think through ideas and have ideas again. When I was sick, I didn't even want to watch TV. It was too overwhelming. Now I'm like, hey, let's put a button band on a shawl. So glad to be back and doing better, and struggling a little bit not to cough and to talk, but I'm making the effort here. All right, so acquisitions. I haven't had any this week, but I did reorganize. You're all going to see things are a little bit different on my bookshelf. I reorganized my bookshelf this morning to accommodate the books that I have and that I had recently gotten. And I need to make some hard choices about acquiring more knitting books because I'm running out of space. I will just acquire another bookshelf, right? I love knitting books. They're kind of like cookbooks for me. I don't necessarily cook specific recipes out of a cookbook, but I'll buy a cookbook and I'll read it because there's so much information in it, and it just is jumping off points for other ideas. Yeah, same with knitting books. I will read a knitting book, I will read a pattern book, and let the ideas just bloom off of that and use them as jumping off points. And I love books. Let's see, what have I been dyeing? I haven't dyed anything since last weekend. I do have some dyeing that I need to do later today. I'm doing some custom orders. I'm very excited about those. And I'm going to be working on some new spring colors that I hope to be able to show you next week. Nope, I tell a lie. I'm not going to have an episode next week. Normally this is my week off, but because we had a technical glitch with Patreon, I wanted to be sure that I was here for you guys this week to do the Patreon drawing, and that's coming up in just a second. But I am going to take next week off from the podcast, and I'll see you guys the weekend after. Patreon, my apologies. There was a technical glitch over at Patreon that slowed the processing of the monthly dues, membership, donations, fees, whatever the variety of crafters like myself are using Patreon for. And so I've only now got all the data. Thank you guys for your patience. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I know that there are many of you in the drawing levels that are like, I want to know if I won. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. So let's kick right in. Let's do that because that's exciting. That's why we want to be here. Let's see, I have random.org pulled up, which you can't see because it's glaring horribly, and we're going to go ahead and do this. At my benefactor level, I have a drawing every month where one random benefactor receives a special knitting gift inclusive of yarn, pattern, and more. I have multiple levels. I am going to cheat. I'm going to read off my sheet here to make sure that I'm telling you the truth. So at my benefactor level, I have 4 participants, and so we're going to enter in 1 through 4 on randomnumber.org, and I'm going to hit generate. And number 1 is the winner, and that is Betty Ann. Yay, Betty Ann. Let's see, at my partner level, 1 random partner level patron will receive both a skein of the color of the month and a pattern. And at that level, I have 8 participants. So I'm putting in 1 through 8. I'm hitting generate. Number 8 is the winner. Number 8 is Tara. Tara, that's exciting. I don't think you've gotten a drawing yet. Let's see. Oh, my phone. I'm so bad at this. I used to design websites for a living. Now I can't handle a cell phone. So, at my contributor level, 1 random contributor patron will receive a random skein of yarn from the Dye Monkeys hand-dyed yarn collection. This month, you're getting the exclusive colorway. I have 3 people at that level, and I'm going to enter 1 through 3. I'm going to hit generate, and number 1, and that is Cynthia. So Betty Ann, Tara, and Cynthia, you all get the exclusive colorway this month. So do all of my sponsor level people. My sponsors received a 50-gram skein of the colorway, and my subscription level people get a 100-gram skein of the colorway. Now, I wanted to address another little technical thing about Patreon. Thank you. So you can join at any time during the month. Once a month I do these drawings. If you come in at a drawing level and I've already done the drawing for that month, I'm going to make sure you get a gift either way. If you come in as a sponsor or a subscriber, I'm making sure I'm calling this correctly. If you come in as a sponsor or a subscriber, which means every month you get a skein of yarn no matter what, and I've already shipped that month's, I'm going to make sure that you get both months in the next shipment. So if you haven't heard from me and you joined mid-month, you're going to hear from me, and you're going to hear from me in a big way when I send out the next packages. I'm grateful to every one of you for your contributions. You make this possible. You have improved my lighting, you have improved my sound, you have improved my video quality, you've improved my editing software, and you've made this possible for me to reach out and to connect with you, whether it's about yarn and dyeing or design and knitting itself, or if it's about life and you need to simply know that you've got a friend. That's what this is about. That, I think, is everything I have for you guys this week. I'm checking the time on this. Looks like we're rounding at least 45 minutes. I know some of you have asked that I try to keep these at about a half an hour because that fits your schedule a little bit better. I've had other people who said, no, go on for hours. Although I have my cheat sheet, and I know roughly what I'm going to talk about every month, this is really very from the heart. The cheat sheet is just so that I be sure that I talk about the things that are most important that I want to be sure I discuss or I announce for you guys. But this really is very much from the heart. As you can tell by my emotional outbursts and my enthusiasm about the things that really matter to me that I love, I don't have a set time parameter that I try to aim for. If this is too long for you, I'm sorry, maybe you can break this up into a couple of sessions. If it's too short, I'm sorry. Thank you for wanting that much of me in your lives. this is about as natural as it gets, and I try very hard to give you some truth and some honesty and some real experience, and let this kind of be my touchstone with you each week. It's important to me. I feel like this is really valuable time. I love sitting down and chatting with you, and I wish that we could do it in person. I look forward to doing it in person, or at least over Zoom or any other online meeting platform. That time is important and valuable and really cool. Really cool. I love that we have this technology to do this. So thank you for making it possible. You guys mean the world to me. I will see you not next week, but the week after. Until then, happy knitting, and if you need somebody to talk to, reach out to me. I'll talk to you anytime. Love you guys. Bye.
Bang it, pump it, drag it, numb it, pack it, pump it, boom, till they have a heart.